Finovate showcases cutting-edge banking and financial technology through a global conference series featuring short-form demos and thought leadership. Now, the conversation continues on the Finovate podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Finovate podcast. We're continuing our interviews with the FinovateFall Best of Show winners. And today I'm talking with Corey Cederquist and Brian Morris of PwC. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Pleasure's all ours.
So obviously the demo video that you guys did is available at finovate.com for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. But can you take a quick moment and give us just an introduction to Customer Link, which you demoed up there on stage?
Sure. So Brian, thanks for that. So Customer Link, what is it? It's what we would call it is a customer insight and engagement platform. So what does that mean? It really allows you to do, in our opinion, three things really well. It allows you to integrate everything you know about your customer, all of your first-party data, which a lot of our clients have a lot of problems with, just getting to one single source of truth within their walls. And then two, what we do is we allow you to drive unlimited scenarios and insights about those clients, not only using your first party data, but then marrying it to ours. And we have over 60,000 attributes for over 280 million individuals plus 26 million businesses. We kind of combine all of that to allow you to do all sorts of segmentation, analysis, and the rest. And so you could do a lot of that analysis. And then finally, the third thing it allows you to do is when you're ready, you can engage your customer across any channel. So we have a whole orchestration platform, and you can engage and optimize that. So it's from data to insights to activation in one convenient package, as we like to call it.
Yeah, and I mean, it certainly is a really powerful tool. And you were able to demo that. I said earlier, demo up on stage, but that's not quite accurate because you guys were joining us digitally. And I want to actually get into that because you did, I think, a really good job with that digital demo. It's something that you were able to have some fun with. It was funny. It clearly resonated with the audience. Can you talk a little bit about the approach you took in creating that 7-minute video for us?
Absolutely, Greg. We often joke internally that we are not kind of, quote, your parents' PwC. And as a collective customer transformation team, we're constantly challenging ourselves to be more provocative in the way that we engage with technology, the experiences that we drive for our clients, and the insights that we deliver. So we realized that there would be a kind of a pseudo supermarket dilemma for all the digital demos at Finovate. So our approach was really focused on amplifying engagement with some hyperbole, and then really synthesizing and distilling our message to really kind of let the audience feel like they were almost at a dinner table with myself and Brian. I have to say, I think the koala and maybe some of those corny dance moves at the end helped a little bit as well.
I know it didn't hurt, that's for sure. Clearly, it resonated well. And one of the fun things about Finovate, obviously, when we first started doing the 7-minute demo, I think it took people a little bit of time to figure out how to use that effectively. We're seeing the same kind of thing with the digital demo now. Having done digital events for the past year and a half, and these hybrid events going forward, we now see people like yourselves really having some fun with it, using that format very effectively. And I think, obviously, bring props, bring a koala, bring some cool dance moves in there. Certainly, just make yourself stand out a little bit, and it worked.
How many koalas do you actually get in there? That's the key thing. So it's around the and a little bit of the confetti. So we're trying. Next time it's gonna be lasers, I think.
And I wouldn't describe Brian's dance moves as cool, Greg. As well, so.
They were pretty genuine.
It's that genuineness that really works. You make that human connection with the audience through the screen. So, one of the things that I think worked really well, and Brian, I'll give this one to you. One of the things that worked really well in your demo was this kind of back to basics messaging. Can you talk a little bit about what you meant by back to basics, what those basics are?
Yeah, it's really funny because you think it's a pretty simple thing to say, that banks really understand their customers and that they know what their customers wants. But you'd be surprised at how often I've actually gone to my clients, and not just banks, but banks and most financial services companies. And the first thing I ask them, seriously, the first thing I ask them is, do you have a customer strategy? And either it is the blank stare of, what are you talking about? Which is one, or it's this actually did happen one time where they're like, sure, we have it. I'm like, oh, okay. Can I see it? Like, can you pull it out? And they're like, well, we have it. It's back here and the rest. And I'm like, no, don't worry. I'll wait for it. And of course, it never materialized, which is kind of funny because you think about it, like the whole purpose here is you would think that an institution has so much data and insight, presumably insights about their customers, really have no idea. They've never brought it together. They've never really understood it. And so we're saying, stop the insanity of getting every new bell and whistle and this and that, the other thing. And just start with the basics, really, of, do you know who your customer is and what they want? Like, full stop, and start from there and then figure it out.
No, I mean, honestly, it sounds really simple when you say it like that, but I completely can sympathize with you because I've had similar conversations with bankers in the past. And, it's clearly that their banks who are struggling with this. Where do you think they're falling short? What are some of the pitfalls that they're falling into?
So I'll take this one. I mean, from my perspective, some of the key pitfalls is that they've been very much product focused. They're in these siloed businesses, and that's the problem, is they're very myopic into that. And while they've always been saying that they've been customer first, right? They're like, that's great, but my metrics are to push as much product as I possibly can, and at what price. And so, when you're looking at it through that lens, and you have your metrics, people are guided towards their metrics. They're not going to be pushed in that direction. And the irony is that the customers are yelling at them, like, please do it. And so they're hearing it, but they're just not doing it.
Yeah. And I think certainly we're in a moment right now where more is possible in this area than has ever been possible. I mean, outside of the time a couple of decades ago when you had a specific banker in a branch who knew you, you walk through the door and they say, oh, hey, Brian, how's the family? This type of interaction. Now we're in a moment where we have a huge amount of data at our disposal, and we can use this data to obviously understand our customers in a way that we really couldn't before. So, Corey, I'll kick this one over to you. How much should a bank know about their customers at this point? What do you consider to be more or less just table stakes?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question, Greg, and we get it. We have it asked to us all the time, and I really think that financial services companies need to do a bit of a reframe, as Brian mentioned earlier. These companies need to start thinking less about product and focus more on experience. We know that the pandemic has accelerated kind of the digital world. Based on some, surveys that we've run, we've seen about 25% of US consumers would use a retailer such as an Amazon for their traditional banking activities, which is mind-blowing if you were to think 18 months ago. That thought never really would cross anyone's mind. So we are starting to see this shift from, product centricity to customer centricity to thinking about experience centricity. Consumers are really not loyal as much as they used to be, but they're really seeking, I would say, immersive, convenient experiences, and those are typically outside of, the traditional product sets. So I think table stakes these days is, really the ability to deliver those experiences and having the data, to be able to do so.
Yeah, and I think you're right. To prioritize the experience first and foremost is obviously, it's a challenge, no question, but it's a challenge that should be overcome at this point. And, it wasn't just yourselves up there on the Finovate stage or coming at us digitally who were working in this area. It's clearly something that a lot of financial technology companies are working on. I think banks are aware of it. Brian, I'll give you this one. Why is getting that information, getting that experience so important? Why do I as a bank really need to prioritize this? I mean, obviously there are a lot of other things that are competing for my attention if I'm a bank executive, but why should this be one where I really need to spend some time?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just I don't know if being too crude, because they're getting their lunches eaten by the folks that are getting it right. And so if you look at again, you did have a lot of fintechs up on the stage there, and fintechs in general are actually starting to get it right. And then, but the non FIs and banks, the Amazons, the Googles, the Apples, you name it, are getting clearly into this space, and they're starting to get it right. So, what I would say is they need to get it right because they're being forced to get it right by not only consumers, but it's what I watch Ted Lasso, which is with relegated. You never want to get relegated. I think they're going to get relegated to if they buy all these other companies, if in fact they don't get this right. And I actually go back to I was just reading, because I'm really boring. I like to go read shareholder letters from Jamie Dimon because that's what I do on the weekends. And there was an interesting thing that he was talking about at Chase and how even at Chase that spends billions of dollars on this, they are fearful of the fintechs. They're fearful of these non-FIs getting into their space. They believe that they relate to the cloud and that, if they don't move quicker, they're going to get relegated. And so someone like Chase is probably one of the more advanced banks in the world when it comes to data analytics. If they think that they're behind and they're scared of the competitors and what customers are pushing towards, then I think the rest of the financial services industry, and specifically banks, they should be terrified.
Yeah, no, I think it's a fair point. It's more sort of stick than carrot at the moment. There's this really real prospect of your bank, getting relegated, having dropping down, losing customers. And I think that's something which, again, to your point, if Chase is concerned about it, certainly a lot of other FIs need to be concerned about it as well, especially when you think about, the rise of banking as a service and other platforms, which can basically give any company the ability to start offering banking products. There's the barrier to entry is dropping, which is probably a good thing for consumers in the end, because they'll end up with higher, increased competition in the marketplace. It means a higher quality product, higher level of service that they can expect. But it should be a real warning to anybody on the financial institution side of things. Now, I want to take a step back here, because there's an issue that we haven't talked about. When you talk about customer data and creating a personalized experience, one of the pieces that you need to bring up is privacy. Brian, I'll give you this one as well. How do you find the right balance between giving banks the information they need to engage their customers successfully, with the need to make sure that their customers still feel like their information is secure and like they have that privacy?
Yeah, I mean, this is always a tough one, because it's this balance where customers are always sitting there saying, "No more about me, no more about me. Give me personalization and all of this stuff." But as soon as they start to hand over some of this data, well, they're like, "Well, hold on, is it secure?" I do think it is the fine balance, and from my perspective, it's as you are interacting with the bank, at the very least, banks should know everything, how you've interacted with them, every transaction that you've done, and be able to get some good insights from the information that you have, willingly given to the bank to do this. I've never been a fan of the just go out and do like the third-party cookies and things of that nature. I'm actually quite happy that third-party cookies are going away, because what it's forcing banks to do is to learn how to engage with customers and get them to provide a lot of this information, and then be able to say, look, this is how I want to be engaged. And so now, for instance, if you're going out with marketing campaigns that you are trying to get them to talk to you, get them into a conversation, get them to share willingly some more of those wants and needs, and then it's a two-way conversation. Then it doesn't look creepy, right? Then it looks like you really are doing what you said you were planning to do, which is really engaging in a conversation, and both parties know what's in it for them. They know what data you have, and they know that you're using it in a way that's going to help their overall experience.
And I would add to that, Greg. I think you need to think about it in terms of kind of a value exchange, where, we're seeing that kind of the younger generations, the millennials and the Gen Zs, are much more willing to sacrifice privacy for value, whether that's convenience, personalization. So we're seeing some very interesting trends that, I think really make you kind of focus on some of the points that Brian was mentioning around what is that kind of value exchange and how does that look like at a consumer level? Something to add.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that emphasis of putting the onus on the financial institution to demonstrate we're doing something productive with the information you share with us. We're using it to create an experience that's better for you. And I think for financial institutions that can demonstrate that value, certainly there's going to be a much easier road to getting the information that you need in order to do that. And that's really where that kind of win-win opportunity is. I think for financial institutions that don't demonstrate that value, it becomes a little bit more difficult. So one of the pieces too, obviously, collecting the information is one, but using it intelligently, using it in a way that people understand what you're doing with it and see that connection is obviously really important as well. So I'd like to end with kind of by zooming way out. We've come a long way in the last few years, but it still seems to me like we're in the early days of personalization and making use of this sort of data. Let's talk big picture, zooming into the future. What does the future look like 5 or 10 years down the road as tools like Customer Link get better and smarter? And I think I'll give you guys each a chance to answer this one. Brian, why don't we start with you?
Well, Customer Link will dominate the planet and take over everything. And
naturally.
And so that's how I see it. I don't know if anyone else sees it that way, but certainly. But it is going to be interesting. Like this stuff is the whole industry here, and what Customer Link is trying to spur is evolving rapidly. And interestingly enough, if you looked at Customer Link even 6 months ago to what it is today, to what it will be 6 months from now, and how more advanced it will be with the analytics, it's going to be amazing. I think that there is emerging, especially in these experience platforms, where a lot of this is turned over to the AI. For instance, we're getting where all the data is being looked at in every interaction that you're doing, and then the algorithms are coming up with the audiences and the way in which you should be engaged. It's looking into your content management system, and it's pulling out what exactly you would like to see on the website or any engagement. It's then putting together the campaign. It's telling which channel it's going after, and the humans are not even involved at all. Like it is really just going to be completely automated. What humans are doing is kind of feeding the machine. That's already starting to happen, and I think that's only going to evolve faster. So again, the whole thing here is around data and getting the analytics right, and so we need to have financial institutions really get clear on what type of data that they're collecting from their customers, what type of customers they want to go out, and then feed a lot of this to the machine to be able to almost enable those experiences automatically through Customer Link.
Yep. I'll just, Greg, I will reinforce that because, I think the future is really going to be determined by companies. And I say companies, not financial services companies, purposefully. It's going to be determined by companies that really drive the best personalized experiences in the most convenient, non-invasive ways. And as part of the Customer Link platform, we are tripling down on our AI investments to provide, these insights at really unparalleled levels of precision. And we are hoping to play a very critical role in helping, clients capitalize on these opportunities across all sectors.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bold ambition to sort of see that laid out, but it seems very possible from where we're at right now. And I think, there's a lot to unpack there. So I'm afraid we have to leave the conversation here. I'll just close by saying, anybody who hasn't seen it, I highly recommend checking out that demo video. And if you're a company who's potentially presenting in a digital format at some point in the next couple of months, it's really worth it to watch the choices that Corey and Brian made in making that video a success. Obviously, it resonated well with our audience. They selected them as Best of Show, which is not just a factor of the demo, of course. The technology is there as well. Really well done to both of you. And thank you again for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Next time, I'll bring a kangaroo. So.
Keep it Southern Hemisphere. I like it.
That's right. Take care.
The Finovate podcast is produced by Informa Connect in association with Provoke.fm Media. Check out Finovate.com for information on Finovate's upcoming shows and to learn how you can get involved. The discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% on tickets to all of our events. And you can email us at info@finovate.com for information on sponsoring, speaking, or demoing. Thanks for listening.